Hey, how you going? I'm Corey Bowen. Just recently turned 30, so it was time to do a little recap of my career and old bike riding footage. So, going to put together a couple of clips from back in the day, and I hope you enjoy it. Growing up, I lived in the suburb that was like right next to Beenleigh, so after school it was like a 20-minute ride, so I could get there on my bike. You know, I didn't have to depend on mum or dad or nothing, and that's where it was a good scene. You know, there was the older crew that would ride and hang out and teach the young boys how to do it all, who would do it all right, and that's where Gootler grew up. And like we'd always be down there riding, and McKay and the boys would flow through, and then Dillsy and that started coming down, and it was just a good scene. And I just remember like we'd all session the cement bowl and we'd learn these fly out tricks, and Wolfman was one of the craziest people I've ever met. He was like such a nice dude, and then if something went wrong, it'd like be a light switch. Wolfman would just be kill mode. And he'd put on jams, heavy metal hero jams, and it'd get a pretty decent crowd for the skate park, and you know, there'd be bogans just rolling in, causing trouble, drinking and shit. And if it was interfering with Wolfman's day, like, oh man, all hell would break loose and those people would just cop it. I remember one day, Wolfman, there was a guy coming up into the bowl area and he was in the way all the time drinking and that, and Wolfman told him, if he doesn't get out of the park, I'm gonna rip your fucking head off. And the guy was like talking shit or whatever, and then Wolfman ended up just cracking him. And we were just like kids, and we're like, holy shit. So you don't mess with Wolfman. No, you don't mess with him. Ask anybody that's from Beenleigh or rode with Wolfman at Beenleigh. They'll have a story to say. So back in the day, like I was about 14 and I was really getting like interested in dirt jumping and that, and I wanted a new bike and a good one. And there was only a local bike shop that had maybe 10 dirt jumping bikes, and me and my mate used to walk in there and just look at them every day after school. We'd look at these Haro like Group 1s, and then we'd look at these Diamondbacks and Mosh and whatever else were in there. But we used to just stand there at the cabinet and look at all the components, like the wheel valve, like the dices or the bullets, and just be like stoked on that shit. So I remember one day I got a Diamondback Assault, and it was like, it had these clear grips on it, and we used to have these trails down by the river, and it was a drop in to a step out, fly out thing, step up. And I was on this Diamondback Assault, and it was my favourite bike. I used to take it to school and like have it outside my classroom and shit. It was awesome. But anyway, one day we were riding our river jump and I hit the step up, and I don't know what I was trying, 180 up it or something, and I snapped the head tube off, I was shattered, man. It was like my best bike I ever had, and just ripped the head tube off, and I was just devastated. And then, yeah, just walked home really sad that day. But then also, you know, like years later, my brother went to America, and I was struggling, working this like night shelf, night packing job at Big W, which is like a bloody Walmart. Saving everything I could, and I saved up for a set of Primo power bike cranks and an El Jefe Schwinn Joey Garcia frame. And my brother was over there telling me the prices of this shit, and I'm like, yeah, I can afford that, get that and bring it back. And I remember when I was going to pick him up at the airport on his return trip home there, and he had the box and my shit. I just couldn't wait to get home and just put it together. Like, that's good memories. Oh, Dave Dilward. From the first day I met that kid, we were at an event at Beenleigh. It was like a Australian X Games qualifier, and the kid was ripping, and he was on this GT Performer that was about this big, and he's like this, and he was doing these suicides and straight double bars and shit, and I was just like, this kid's awesome. So he was already pre-qualified, so I was watching the event, and he was doing so good, and he crashed and blew up his wheel. And I remember lending him a wheel, and then since that day we were like good mates, and we started hanging out all the time. And then now he's just like single man, internet predator, and he's got his website running. He's like a photo guy, he's like a street guy now, and he's like a beer drinking guy, and he's all sorts of stuff. But I know who Dilwart is, and he better not change too much, otherwise I'll be pretty upset. Me being 30 and being involved with BMX since I was 14, it's been my whole life every day. So I've seen it change a little bit, and progression is good, and like it's just the things that happen these days on a bike just blows your mind. And the people, the way they ride is so good. But for me, I feel like I've held on to the one thing that's always kept me stoked on BMX, and that was just doing what you do and what you want to do and having fun with it, regardless of what's going on around in the industry and whatnot, following trends and all this kind of stuff. BMX has become very judgmental, and kids are just like, they'll see a certain type of rider, but they'll be not stoked on anything he's doing, even though he's riding a bike and whatnot. It's become very opinionated and very judgmental, but at the same time it's progressed and it's becoming a little more mainstream, which is cool. But it's also still raw BMX, so I just hold on to the fact I love riding my bike and riding whatever's in front of me, and that's what I'll just keep doing. If anyone doesn't know already, that I do ride for The Set, and it's Mark Ehrlich's company. It's out of Melbourne, and it's myself, Brad Sims, Kim Grosser, and then Danger, Calvin, Callum, a few of the boys from the Flow team, you know. So we've got a great squad, you know. All the riding is quality, and we're having a lot of fun with each other. We get along too easy, and just went on a trip recently, and everyone was putting out some quality riding. So you'll see a lot more from the company this year, because last year it was just setbacks with Taiwan development and whatnot. So everything's full steam ahead though, and the team's strong, and it's a good thing. Just turned 30 January this year, and it is quite shocking, isn't it? Like, I remember going to the States and being the young kid amongst all these like mid-20s to late 20s crew, and here I am, I'm that old boy on the roll-in. But no regrets whatsoever, just had fun up until this point and still having fun. So it is just a number, you're only as old as you feel, so I feel really good, and I still got a lot of riding to happen, and I'm 30, but whatever man, 30 is where it's at. Alright, well that was it. I hope you enjoyed a little recap and like some classic old footage, because that's the stuff I love to watch, the old days, and I don't know, hope you enjoyed it, boys.